shaping up is not going to turn out to be the way that it shapes up at the top and the bottom of the Premier League table. Darren Lewis is here and Tim Sherwood is with us as well. But we have to start, Benji, by looking at that Garnacho goal again. I know we've already seen it, but it's just fantastic, isn't it? And there's been lots of discussions, because everything has to be a competition, about whether it's the best overhead kick in the Premier League ever. And this is the one that comes out in second or first place, depending on how people see it. I mean, look, the 2 points of difference here are, one, it hits Wayne Rooney's shin. I'm not going to say shinned it, because that would be relative. And two, it was against Manchester City. So, there's an argument in both cases. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, context, you look at the Manchester derby, Rooney's goal was incredible, but then you look at Garnacho, young kid, making obviously an impact in the Premier League. I know it's against Everton, who are at the bottom of the table, but Rooney's, for me, probably just picked it, even if it was his shin. But for Garnacho and the confidence that he's shown to even do that on that occasion, being given opportunities in the first team, I prefer the strike because it comes off his foot, whereas it's Rooney's shin. But I think the context of the game, I'm still going to go with Rooney's just.
I'm going Rooney because he has to adjust his position. If you look at it again, Rooney's one, it takes a deflection. So he's preparing for something completely different, where there's Garnacho watches that ball from Dalot, watches it all the way. And probably 1 second after it leaves his foot, he knows exactly what he's going to do. Whereas Wayne has to adjust his position again and then overhead kick. It was fantastic. For me, it's got to give it to Rooney.
You've got to go for the one with the story, no?
Actually, I was, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Rooney, because of the size, the occasion, the attempt. I mean, it is a little bit like Evel Knievel, you get paid for the attempt. And I think as far as he's concerned, to even have the confidence to try that is fantastic. And it doesn't really matter that it comes off his shin. The fact is that at that stage, with all that focus on him as a player to try that, brilliant. I think Garnacho's is the better connection. And the stakes are high, even though it is, in theory, a lesser team in Everton. The stakes are high in terms of the game and the fact that it's at Goodison as well. So there had been pressure on Man United. But I think as far as Rooney is concerned, it kind of cemented the position that he'd been in for a long time as an outstanding player.
Yeah, it was just a really special goal. And it's not taking anything away from Alejandro Garnacho to say that Wayne Rooney's maybe just edges it because it was a winner in a Manchester derby. You said that you scored some of them in Sunday League football. And I probably had a fair few in training as well. Yeah, that nobody has on camera. Yeah, I bet. But this is the closest we could find. This is when you were at Derby. So we've got we didn't get the full footage because you didn't score from it.
No.
But that was kind of your attempt at it. But that's fairly acrobatic.
You got paid for the attempt as well.
Even if it went the angle of my foot as well, I'm not even sure where the ball ends up.
Yeah.
That's like grass there, about like 2 foot. Surely. Them guys were 6 foot in the air.
Yeah. The thing is, Tim, I wouldn't be too yet. Go on.
I know why he done that, because he didn't want to head it.
Yeah.
I remember once saying to Benny, we're going to do some heading. He goes, no, man, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
He's the clever one.
But the thing is, you can't take the mickey too much, because we found your closest attempt to an overhead kick, and that's probably about as far up as you got.
Do you know what that was? That was actually a tackle. He just put the ball in there just so it looked like it. That's as high as my leg went, and still does.
Darren, we haven't got any pictures of yours.
Thankfully.
But I've heard it was fantastic. But look, it was a great way to start that game with that goal. But really, as we said, and we'll come back to that game between Man United and Everton, because it was significant in terms of what happens at the bottom of the table. But it feels like everything's shifting a bit in the Premier League at the moment. We thought maybe City were going to be able to claw it back after having had a mini blip. The draw against Chelsea, the draw against Liverpool now, and the fact that they look vulnerable has set things up really nicely. And the fact that Arsenal get a late winner in the way that they did in a game that didn't really...
It's definitely maybe a little bit of hangover from last season. I mean, that takes a lot. They're going for the 4 in a row as well, which has never been done, and the treble last season. And Arsenal, I mean, you look at where they are in terms of top of the table. I don't think they've even started playing well either this season. They've certainly not hit the heights they hit last season. It's a little bit stodgy at times. There've been injuries, lack of form in certain players, but they find themselves top. And that's, I guess, as a top side, you want to be doing, not playing very well, but find yourself up there. It's fantastic from their perspective, but again, you can never ever, for me, rule out Manchester City. I know, I just said the Chelsea result, the result against Liverpool, But they're one team in the Premier League. I believe that if they have to go and win 10 games in a row, they can go and win 10 games in a row. Yeah. They've still got injuries. De Bruyne has still got to come back. Even Haaland, who's still top goal scorer in the Premier League, I wouldn't say he's been as good as he was last season. I know his numbers suggest that he is.
He'll be missing De Bruyne as well, won't he?
Exactly. So I still think Manchester City, although they're not where they probably expected to be, for me, they're still the team to beat.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we're looking at the moment, is where the fact that they're so close means that it is open, the title race. And you could argue that none of them have consistently showed their best form throughout the season. It just feels that Manchester City have another level to reach than the other teams.
Absolutely. I think they're ready to go. It was a great weekend for the Premier League. You know, everyone's bunching up. And what we need this weekend is Tottenham to go to the Etihad and win. You know, everyone from the Premier League probably wants that for the neutral. I think it's one of the best, most competitive leagues we've had for a long time. I think they still will win the league. I honestly believe that. Like Benty, I go on a 10, 15 game unbeaten run. You know, they change gear when they come into March. You know, it looks March, April, it just stick the games together, and it's sickening for everyone else looking in. Liverpool, I think they're still capable. I really do. I think that Jurgen's done a good job. I was really questioning them last season. I thought possibly it might be the end of his tenure there. They might need a change.
Hang on. You predicted that.
I predicted, yeah. I thought after the 7 years, I just think, could he bring them back? But I think keeping Mo Salah, giving him Szoboszlai, giving him McAllister, giving him the tools what he wanted. I still think the midfield mix is not correct. I think they need a number 6 in there, and that would help them out massively. But I think they backed
the financial backing to be able to do that. If they can ally that away form to their home form, who's to say they won't be in the mix? And when you look at the points, as we were looking at a second ago, there is everything to suggest that there could be a surprise this season. Because we say that City always win the league, but no one's ever done it 4 times in a row. Yeah, everyone's done it, but everyone knows that Bayern have done it 4 times in a row, twice over the past decade. City have never done it 4 times in a row in this league, and that's why I still do think, every time I come in here, I always say City are going to win it. Yeah, but this time around, I think there could be drama this year.
Yeah, and what we want is a title race that goes right down to the wire as well. We love all that last day drama and cameras at various different grounds waiting to see exactly what's going to... You know, the Premier League trophy with replicas here and sitting in a helicopter waiting to fly out to be delivered to the title-winning captain. But it is potentially on the cards for Arsenal. They're the ones in pole position at the moment. Weren't at their best against Brentford, but they got the win. So what are they looking at? Where do they need to improve as we look into the kind of later stages of the season?
Well, I think Tim mentioned it there. I think the firepower is an issue. I think Saka, Martinelli, these guys are fantastic. They're fine. They'll get their numbers. But I think the centre-forward issue is going to be a problem. Like, they brought Jesus in, who's a good player, not a goal scorer, really good footballer, creates opportunities. And it was even times against Brentford where I'm watching the game and he's playing wide left, crossing the balls in the box. And I'm thinking, well, no, that's where you need to be.
And that is true, isn't it? Because normally when a team wins a league, you've got a 20, 25 goal a season striker. Then you've got goals from midfield, double figures, maybe one. I think about Chelsea when they had goals from Lampard, but also Drogba up front. You think of Man United when Scholes would score so often from midfield. Giggs, Beckham. I'm going way too far back, but that's for the older ones. But every time a team does win the league, you've got the goals from midfield as well as goals from attack. I'm not seeing that with Arsenal at the moment, and I think they do need another striker, which is why there has been all that talk about Ivan Toney.
But that's the thing, you said there, Saka, Martinelli will get theirs. Odegaard's had a really quiet, by his standards last season, he has had a really quiet season. His standards haven't been where they were last season, so they're talking about investing heavily in January. I think Ivan Toney, or even someone like Ollie Watkins I spoke about, Aston Villa are never letting him go because he is vital, as you spoke about earlier, to what they're going to do. So I think that's one area that Arsenal need to strengthen. It's that centre forward, and that then becomes Gabriel Jesus can play right or left. I don't know what happens to Eddie and Kane.
Ask a question. I come on this bit. See, Havertz just scored that goal there, right? Have you two, either of you two, worked with players who have taken a bit of time when they've joined a new club to score goals, but once they've started, that's a turning point and they can't stop? I mean, could that be the case for Havertz?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think Mikel was taking him over there to introduce him to the Arsenal fans, wasn't he? I mean, it's been about time. I mean, there's a lot of money and they ain't seen nothing, and nor have I. I mean, the boy don't even know where his best position is, and Mikel certainly doesn't know.
But is that his fault, do you think?
He says he doesn't know what his best position is. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
If you've got a player saying it himself, I don't know what my best position is. And then what chance have you got if you're Mikel? You know, I think he's an 8, but he needs to go and get the ball back. He's not as good as Odegaard for me. He's not going to play in there in front of Declan Rice, that's for sure. Trossard affects the game a lot more. His assists and goals, what he does. So where do you find a place for him? Hopefully, he scores big goals. That's a big goal for Arsenal. Huge goal. He scored in the Champions League final for Chelsea. He's capable. We know he is. But is he good enough to give him no defensive responsibility and play as a 10? I don't think he is. He's not a Dennis Bergkamp.
I remember when I was a journalist covering Spurs. You managed Spurs. You had Soldado, you had Adebayor, you had a couple of others, and you were persevering with them. Soldado was a big money signing, and he just wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
And eventually you accepted that actually you just had to bring this young kid in, Kane. Obviously did
the right, didn't he?
Where's he now?
But Havertz seems to be responding. To Arteta. There's a big difference, isn't there?
Well, I think he realises. I honestly believe he's never going to go to a bigger club than what he's at. Not from here. You know, I don't care. You're not going to go to Bayern Munich, in my opinion. Do you know, you're not going to go over there. He's at one of the biggest clubs he's ever going to play for. He needs to put his finger out. He needs to start showing it. And it's all right. Look, foreign players take a lot of time. Any player moving clubs, Darren will tell you, it takes time to settle. But come on. You know, you've been there long enough. The manager's trying to help you out. The other players are trying to help him out. They play a style of football which you think would suit him. But we just can't nail down a position. And I think it's up to Mikel to find him a position, tell him he's going to play, give him a run of games, give him the confidence. Hopefully that confidence of scoring that goal there against Brentford will help. But at the moment, I would say I'll be looking, if anyone wanted to offer me money for him, I would be taking the money and putting it elsewhere because he's not done it.
Sorry, Kel, there's another thing as well. You said there, Tim, you're right. It's hard when you move clubs. Certainly when a foreign player comes to the Premier League. But this guy's been in England now for a while now. He played for Chelsea. I know it's a different system. And he's come to Arsenal. And Arsenal last season played with an intensity which was out of traps really, really fast. They haven't done it this season, but even though he's still a bit slow, he still can't get up to speed, which is why you said there, Trossard, he can play because he plays with that intensity. He's not going to play wide instead of Martinelli or Saka because these guys have got that intensity and know exactly what they're doing. He almost ambles in between. Like, he's not as fast as Odegaard, he's not as quick as Saka, but everything's quite laboured and quite lacklustre. And I think that's how he plays, and that's not a criticism against him. But when you're a fan watching it, it looks like he's not at the races because everyone else is ratting around doing what they need to do, and he's kind of going half pace. What exactly is he doing? And that's going against him.
But you do see them players, and they've got that star quality, and they've got that guile, and they've got the slow the ball down. Yeah, they do have it. But this boy looks like he's almost too cool to sweat. You know, he looks like, well, I'm going to look like I'm not trying. But the fans are looking at him and thinking, you're not trying. If you deliver, if you've got that moments when you're delivering, like I say, I hope that gives him the confidence to be able to do it. We know he's a talent, but there becomes a time when, like I did at Tottenham, where you just have to discard him and bring someone else in.
But what I was going to ask you, when you were making the point about, as a manager, giving him a role and just saying, right, that is now yours. That's your position. That's what I need you to do. It makes me think of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain when he moved from Arsenal to Liverpool, because the best period of his career was before he got that injury, after he'd moved to, look, first game aside, but after he moved to Liverpool, where they gave him that specific job to do, and he flourished in it. And he was another player who nobody really knew what his best position was.
Yeah, I mean, for Kai, he must have thought, I'm a big money sign, I'm going to Arsenal, I'm going to play every single week. It's not panned out that way because of the... So
you're surprised that they didn't have a conversation with you, said, you're coming in to do this? Because that's normally part of it, isn't it?
And surely you knock on the door and say to the manager, or if you're the manager, the onus is on the manager really to say, I'd pull him in and say, where do you want to play? Yeah. What's your best position? Yeah. Where can I get the best out of you? Where can you give us the best? Kai Havertz. And let him answer it. But if he doesn't know his best position himself, he's seen the style of play now. He's had a good time to play a Martinelli role. He's not going to play a Saka role because he hasn't got
or a 10, Odegaard.
Exactly. And Odegaard plays 8. You know, Odegaard's a different level to him entirely. He can play 8, he can play 10. He works hard. He's got intensity. He's aggressive without the ball. This boy, I'm scratching my head to find out what is he good at. I know he's got talent. There's a load of players with talent, but have they got the whole cocktail? I don't think he has. I don't think he lacks work rate, and he's not that good to suffer not getting the ball back. I think at the moment, I think they should cash in.
Well, it's interesting, though, who Mikel Arteta does and doesn't have patience with and isn't prepared to work with, because it brings us back to the goalkeeping situation where Aaron Ramsdale is in goal for this game, looks nervous, by all accounts, is getting a lot of instruction from Arteta from the touchline, some of which is constructive, some of which is critical, and looks nervous. I mean, look, you can make the argument he's an elite level player. He should be able to deal with pressurized situations, and if called upon, he has to be able to deliver at the top of his game. But there's a human argument here, which is that his confidence will be damaged.
I think you're absolutely right, and I don't think this is about football. This is about confidence. This is about human frailty, and I think whatever job that we work in, ever, if you have the confidence of the people who you work for, you're going to do well. He doesn't have that confidence. Arteta clearly doesn't believe in him, which is why he's brought him in. He hasn't brought him in. I mean that is the players got confidence in him. The players admire and they respect him.
Do you know what I think, Darren's almost patronising? That was bordering patronising for me. I think it was too over the top.
Yeah.
I know they want to keep him on side, but the guy knows he's a good goalkeeper. He's an international goalkeeper. He's been hit. This environment has been created by Mikel Arteta, right? And he's entitled to create whatever environment he wants. He's the manager of the football club. Is Raya that much better than him? The answer is no, on evidence we've seen. He's entitled to make whatever decision he makes. He's obviously got the Brentford goalkeeping coach there working at Arsenal now. And all the time he's there working with Ramsdale, he must have said to him, Raya's better than him, you know.
But don't you think, looking at those pictures, and I take that point about it being borderline patronising, but don't you think it's the players going out of their way to show, well, look, the manager might not fancy, but we don't know why he's gone with the other goalkeeper. We still
they know he's had a tough time. They know that, you know, his dad's come out publicly and had he say, which I think he should have kept quiet, but it looked like it was almost over the top. I personally, I would have done it. Might have said to him, well done, mate, it's a clean sheet. You had a few dodgy moments there, but I would have done it in the dressing room. I think to that show in public, in front of the fans, it's almost like, look, we're behind him. And I was like, look, go away.
It's almost like it's showing everyone else that he's struggling.
Leave me alone. Yeah.
It was a little bit over the top, I thought, as well, because as Tim was saying, and he's 100% right. If they were signing an Edison or an Alisson, you go, I get it.
Yeah.
I can understand. Ramsdale's a good goalkeeper, but you're not that level. The fact that him and Raya are like this, there's nothing between the two goalkeepers.
There's not much in them statistically, but I just wonder if either of you two have ever had a situation where you've got one player who, and look, Ramsdale is not a perfect goalkeeper, and there were certainly mistakes last season, and you could look at mistakes in big games as well. The City one, Southampton, and the game against Manchester City at the Emirates as well. But and you can definitely point to those. So it's not that he's above criticism. It's more a case of if you're in a dressing room, like you said, the players are going over and you're saying it's borderline patronising when they're being nice to him. It's clearly popular in the dressing room as well. But there's also the thing of, well, if they go over and they're really nice to Aaron Ramsdale, is David Raya then they're thinking, well, they don't even want me here. And so his confidence, because his performances, again, at times looked a bit nervy. So it's a really odd dynamic. Have you ever...
just to go back to kind of where I was, because I think that is so true. And it is about confidence, because if our season, we don't have this, because there's no David Raya and he's just going about his job. Ramsdale, we think he's going to step up this season because we've seen what he's done since he's come to the club from a relegated team in Sheffield United, and everyone doubted him, and then he kind of proved them wrong, and he's come and he's done well in the first couple of seasons. One competing for the top four, the second competing